You'll know when you have a wild woman. She'll practice her craft without boundaries. She is truly autonomous.
Her loyalty is only to the family she serves, a midwife who will not allow herself to be held back by a system she didn't create.
This podcast is for the birth keepers who want to grow and change. We are open to learning through self-reflection and supportive community. We are creating this space to explore without judgment. We are remembering we were
born wild. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Born Wild podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sophia, and today I have with me Patricia. And let's just dive right in and have you introduce yourself to the listeners.
Sounds good. Hi, nice to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Patricia Siegel. I'm originally from Germany, was born and raised there, and I came to the States around 2008 on a sports scholarship, but I'm a certified sports scientist. I finished my entire pretty much sports science career in Germany. So I specialize in rehabilitation and prevention. And then, I came to the US 2008, ran track and cross country there for the team, and then lived in New York for almost 10 years, and then moved to the West Coast. And I have a little 2-year-old daughter too.
Sweet. Yeah, I was reading your bio and you sound very fit.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so where does your journey begin? Is it, as we're talking a lot today about pelvic floor health, but how did you end up there? Does it have to do with your activity level and your exercise? Does it have to do with the birth of your daughter? Where did this journey begin for you?
It's all kind of like pieces of a puzzle. I mean, I studied sports science for half a decade. That's a very intense program.
Okay, sorry for the pause. Our on-call phone was ringing, and so I had to pause the recording and answer that. But it was a false alarm. So we're back again, and let's just pick up where we left off.
Yeah, so you asked me how my journey got me to where I am now. And so, it's pretty much a lot of pieces of a puzzle. The study I did in Germany was very extensive. It was a 6-year program, sports science program that included everything from kinesiology, sports medicine, sports nutrition, sports psychology. So it was very extensive. And I graduated as a certified sports scientist and therapist, specializing in rehabilitation and prevention. So that was always my passion. Parallelly, I was a semi-professional runner in Germany while I studied, and that gave me the opportunity to move to the United States on a scholarship for track and field, and it was like a twofold. It was academic scholarship too. And so I started to study in New York, ran for the team there, did a whole nother bachelor's program there that was management and psychology. So it didn't really have anything to do with sports in that matter, sports science. But I needed to choose that field because of the visa. When you're an immigrant, you have to prove a lot of things to be able to stay here. So always wanted to work in sports as a trainer or sports marketing and rehabilitation, and that visa didn't allow me that, so I had to go the route of management, which was fine. It took me 11 years to get my green card through all of that. It was a crazy long process, but I ended up getting it through work and my studies and all of that, so that's pretty cool. And then when I was New York, I competed in track there too, and then I moved to Santa Barbara and I started to compete in triathlon. Was pretty successful there too. Then I moved a little bit further north here, and I got pregnant, and I had my baby it was considered high risk. I got her when I was 40, and that was already, considered quote unquote risky. But the story unfolds as my labor took 57 hours. It was absolutely terrifying. I mean, we started at a birth center without any progress, really. I don't know how much you want me to get into my actual birth story.
Yeah, whatever you want to share.
I know a lot of people like love their birth stories, but might not want to hear about others. But yeah,
we feel like all birth stories deserve to be shared if they want to.
Okay. Yeah, so we decided to do the birth center route, the quote unquote natural route. And I did birth classes prepping for the contractions, the 60 seconds breathing and all of that. Yeah, long story short, my contractions started and didn't dilate, didn't make any progress. And then they sent me back home. And then the contractions were 3 minutes long with 1 minute in between. I was like, I didn't prepare for all this. How am I? This is so exhausting. And back to the birth center. I was in the tub and I was in the toilet, on the toilet, and again, like so much pain, no progress. And then after 38 hours there, my midwife said, "Let's do another round of herbs and oil, and you can do this." I'm like, I can't. I'm so exhausted. If I do another round of that, I won't be able to. I won't make it, honestly. And for me, that was so hard because as an athlete, you literally train and practice, and when you race, you don't give up. There's no option to give up. If you give up in a race, that's complete failure. And so for me, even in Ironman is so intense. I don't know if you know the distances of Ironman. I mean, that's insane. And not giving up was always a thought, but it was never, you just don't do that. So saying that for me I felt like that was failure. I felt defeated on that end, but I was just at the point where my body just said, "Hey, you got nothing left. Like I can't do it." And so got transferred to the hospital. It gave me an epidural. And then in summary, pretty much what happened is with every contraction that I had, her heart rate was critically decreasing every time I had a contraction. So at one point there were like lights going on and beeping, and I don't know, like doctors rushed in and we're like starting to whisper to each other. I'm like, what's going on? Like, why is nobody talking to me? What is happening? That was really scary. And so I don't know how many catheters I ended up having. Like they put an internal heart rate monitor for the baby. They had a bladder catheter and I had another catheter. And at one point I was looking down, and at this time was already the second round of doctors. In the end, I had like 3 rounds of doctors after all. But I was looking down and I saw one of the doctor's arm disappeared like up to here. It was inside of me. I'm like,
without even saying anything to you. Yeah.
I mean, I was really drugged up, and she said, I have a magic touch. She said, I will try to turn the baby around. And I'm like, okay. At this point, I was just so delusional, drugged up, and I saw this, and it was like, I will never forget that. This was so crazy, just seeing that arm disappear and trying to turn the baby around. It ended up turning again. She was sunny side up, a stargazer. So she turned back around, so that didn't work. Anyhow, so long story short, what the doctor then said, okay, you have a 5% chance of delivering vaginally. Everything is set up in the emergency room. Everything is ready for C-section. I have a vacuum here. You have 2 attempts. If you don't make it at a second attempt, we need to rush you in because we need to get the baby out then. And that was after 57 hours. And I'm like, oh, hell no. I went through all of this already. I'm going to try everything I can possibly to get that baby out. And I pushed so hard that the doctor threw the vacuum away. That was a third doctor, right? He threw it away. He's like, oh my gosh, it's coming.
And you pushed her out. Wow.
Yeah, so they threw it on me. She was completely brown, so she pooped herself, which was another critical thing. So they only, I mean, I only had her for like 5 seconds on me until they rushed her into another. Again, lights went on, like 20 doctors came in. It was completely crazy. But what happened was I have an extra hook in my pelvis, they said, that her head bumped into. So every time I had a contraction, like her head bumped into that, and that's why she couldn't pass. That's why it didn't progress. But then also she was obviously sunny side up, and then her umbilical cord wrapped around twice, and then again the pooping herself. After knowing all this, I am so glad I did say I want to go to the hospital because I'm not sure how the birth center would have handled that or could have handled that. Um, so in that matter, I felt defeated initially, but it was literally like a blessing in disguise in that matter. And so, as you can imagine, after 57 hours of labor, there was a lot of trauma, not only emotional but also physical. And pelvic floor again. I mean, everybody told me I literally swam every day until my delivery. And they said, oh, it's going to be a walk in the park for you. You're going to just, bounce back and it's going to be so great. But I am, you know, 6 weeks, I was like, okay, I'm cleared now. Let me go to the track and like run a little bit. And literally 2 steps in, it completely peed myself. I had no idea what was coming. I had no idea what is happening. And it was so crazy that there was so much urine, like from two little steps. And I was embarrassed because I wasn't prepared. I didn't have like an adult diaper or whatever. Anyhow, fast forward, I went to pelvic floor therapy. Um, she gave me exercises. It did help initially if you want to do like the day-to-day things like walking and stuff. It didn't make progress with running. I was still experiencing that. I went to another pelvic floor therapist. It was a bit better, but the exercises were pretty much the same. And then after 6 sessions, my insurance ran out too, so paying $200 on the spot. And I'm like, this cannot be right. Like there has to be another way. And I studied this stuff for again half a decade.
Yeah.
And these exercises, it's not cutting it, honestly. Like a clamshell and another plank, it's like, it's movements that you do that have nothing to do with actual like sports movement or functional movement like a run or a jump, right? And so after that, I developed my own program with my entire knowledge, combining your traditional pelvic floor therapy exercises, but combining it with other things that I've learned in my experience in Germany. And it worked. Like it was absolutely wonderful that after 2 months applying all that, I was starting to run, and I was running with, adult diapers and they were barely wet.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. And so it was just, it was like almost like, Patricia, are you stupid? Like you studied this for so long and you're certified in like all of this. Why are you going down that route? Why are you not
I think
just
that's
seeing
such a
that?
common thing, though. There's so many times I have like lists for everything, like all the things. And I posted in a mommy group asking for support around something with my son, and they sent me my own list, Like I was like, oh yeah. But like when you're in it and it's emotional and
Mhm.
all this and you're tired, it's just hard to remember all the things until you
Totally.
do remember and you're like, oh, I actually know what to do.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't study this for nothing. It's not even like I went to read a book for a month and become like an expert. Like this was an intensive, like I worked with like patients everywhere from Parkinson's to artificial hips to pregnant women. I'm like, this was almost like, Patricia, are you stupid? Like, almost like dumbfolded. But I guess it had to be the way it had to be for me to actually see that.
Yeah, it's interesting how like all of our experiences kind of cater to where we're meant to
Totally.
end up and like keep setting us up like until we realize the route we're supposed to take, we're going to keep getting slapped with opportunities.
Totally.
Yeah,
So
well, so you created this program and what do you feel like is the difference between the other programs? Like what made the difference?
most of the programs that traditional pelvic floor therapy entails is the literal Kegels, pelvic floor engagement, pull your belly to the spine, do a dead bug, do a clamshell, do a bird dog. And they forget about the functional part of what the pelvic floor entails, how it's connected to literally everything in our bodies. It's pretty much the core of our existence. It helped our ancestors to walk upright. So just knowing that means you cannot just look at a muscle group that contains like 14 little muscles and think you can fix it with that. It's like saying, I want to have more arm strength, so I'm just going to do biceps curls. It just doesn't work that way. So you have to think outside the box a little bit and include more holistic exercises. That includes full body squats, like in the gym. That includes step ups, lunges, deadlifts. That includes swimming. Nobody in pelvic floor therapy talks about swimming. Swimming is one of the most underrated pelvic floor exercises you can do, and nobody talks about it. Swimming is proven to actually reduce the rate of C-sections during pregnancy. Nobody talks about that. Swimming helps with diastasis recti. Nobody really talks about that. Like, you cannot sit on the floor and do more crunches and more planks and feel like it's going to fix the problem. So I combine all that together with, I partnered with Intimate Rose. I don't know if you heard of them. They develop really cool pelvic floor tools like a pelvic wand and vaginal weights. For everybody that doesn't know what vaginal weights are, it's not like a dumbbell for your vagina, but it looks like a bigger tampon. You probably, have you heard of vaginal
Like I've
weights?
heard of like yoni eggs, things
Oh
like
yeah,
that,
no,
where no,
that's
it's not that.
yoni egg. Yeah, there's a whole nother
Yeah.
topic, but I wouldn't recommend the yoni egg. But the vaginal weights have different weight groups, and they all like egg shaped, but like a bigger tampon, egg shaped. And you insert them, and you have to hold them for about 15 minutes until you can move up to the next weight.
Okay.
And that already also shows it, because a lot of women don't know how to do Kegels correctly. They just squeeze. That's my baby. Like a little nightmare. Squeeze and release. But that's not really how that works. It's engaging it, thinking about pulling up a little blueberry up your pelvic floor. And so having these weights, you automatically have to do that, because if you don't, the weight will fall out. So having that as a tool, it's wonderful. It's a little biofeedback also, knowing that you actually do this correctly, you're contracting this correctly. The problem with the yoni egg is that they are even saying to wear it overnight, which is absolutely crazy. If you think about, even on the tampons box, it would say don't wear it overnight because it can cause infection and other things. And also, what I know, it's supposed to be natural stones, but some of them are so porous that even you cannot really clean and sterilize them. There's always something that might end up staying there, and then you reintroduce that into your body, which is so critical. And then again, it's literally like constant contraction. Like, you don't really, you need to contract and release. Having just that in can lead to a whole nother issues. So I wouldn't recommend the yoni egg. If anything, I would recommend the vaginal weights.
Okay.
And then yeah, so that's weak pelvic floor muscles, right? But then there's another group, a whole nother group of overly hypertonic pelvic floor
I was
muscles
gonna
that
ask about that.
right, they're too tight. So that can also already happen when you are 13, 14 years old. There are track athletes, high school track athletes, that pee themselves in a race or doing their workout because there's so much pressure due to the tightness of the muscle that puts so much pressure on the bladder that when you add extra pressure, like running, jumping, anything like that, it creates too much pressure for it. So you leak. That happens a lot with runners, gymnasts, horseback riders. So there's
Do you
that.
feel like that affects birth too? Because I've heard things like that, like if
For
your pelvic
sure.
floor is too tight because you're so
For
used to
sure.
like holding everything in, that it can
Yeah,
be hard to relax and
for
like
sure.
out.
That's why it's important to also think about relaxation techniques, stretching techniques, working with the pelvic wand that I mentioned that helps with pressure points and tension. And another category of overly tight pelvic floor muscles is emotionally mental. Pelvic floor stores a lot of emotions. For example, if you are stressed in your relationship or just anxious about going to the OBGYN or having any sort of exam, unconsciously your pelvic floor muscles tighten up and lead to contractions and spasms. And that could lead to painful intercourse, painful tampon insertion, painful exams. And it's often based on a trauma. Sometimes we don't even remember that trauma. It has to be unpacked with a mental therapist. But it also is kind of a protection mechanism for ourselves to just protect ourselves from harm. So when they say like, oh, she's so tight, like, in during intercourse, that's not really a compliment. Because she doesn't, like, if we don't trust and fully release, we are tightened up. So this is really not a compliment for your partner.
Yeah.
A compliment is when it's smooth because we fully trust, we open up. It's like, again, everything is connected, and it's if we trust somebody, we let ourselves go and can enjoy that. But if we don't,
Yeah.
it can lead to other issues. So you have to look at that not just from, again, the local standpoint of working on the pelvic floor, trying to like release tension. It has to come from here.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
And sometimes women know about it ahead of time and can do the processing in pregnancy. And sometimes they don't even, like you were saying, it's so subconscious that they don't even realize until they're in labor. And then their birth team is kind of picking up on, I think there's something.
Yeah. And we women know when something is not right. Like they always say, this gut feeling is never wrong. If we know something is wrong or we are mistrusting our partner, our body reacts to that like unconsciously, so subtle, and it's so fascinating.
Yeah. I've heard even down to like, I'm not really in the mood, but I told my partner we would have sex tonight, and so we do. And it like, obviously it's consensual, but like you really didn't want it. Like your body knows you didn't really want it and you did it anyways. And that even like the subtlety of that can lead to some trauma.
Totally.
Yeah.
And just knowing that the average time a woman needs to get aroused is about 20 minutes. The average time a man, I don't know if you know that, is 2 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So just, we just need a little bit more time and be able to trust and let ourselves go and just take some time prior to that, because otherwise it can create a vicious cycle of this painful or not enjoying intimacy in that way.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your pelvic floor program and, for women who maybe are interested in this in pregnancy or in postpartum, like what does it look like?
So it's a self-guided course. You can literally click through it. It shows you your progress. It has videos and pictures, information about it goes from pelvic floor anatomy to what prolapse is, what happens during pregnancy, postpartum, and even all the way to menopause, because that creates um, a whole nother issue for the pelvic floor. Then it has your traditional pelvic floor exercises that you can do the comfort of your home. Then it has gym exercises, and it has a 12-week running plan, a 12-week cycling plan, and a 12-week swimming plan that you can print out. It has a bladder log. You can keep track on your incontinence. It has a training log, and it has all the tools that I mentioned, the vaginal weights and the pelvic wand that you could use. And yeah, it's pretty much a blueprint, an all-in-one blueprint. It concentrates into weak pelvic floor muscles, concentrates on to tight pelvic floor muscles, concentrates on menopausal symptoms in regards to pelvic floor. So everything is pretty much in there. And it's so hard, to find appointments, get an appointment, get childcare, and do all that.
Yeah.
And insurance, the other thing. That's how I saw myself being so frustrated about paying another $200 and being in an office just hearing the same thing and getting the same exact exercise. And
Yeah.
so that was just so frustrating to me, that because I don't think that's right. It might help some women, but I just want to show that there's also alternatives to that. And alternatives that show real results.
Yeah. And there might be some women who very clearly know that this is kind of the support they need based off the symptoms, but could you paint a picture for like symptoms that women might notice in themselves, whether it's in pregnancy or postpartum, where this could be beneficial for them, this
Sure.
program? Because I feel like some symptoms can be subtle, or women could just think it's a normal thing
Right.
when
Yeah.
really it could be
Yeah.
beneficial to adjust.
For sure. So as far as the pain side goes, that's pelvic pain, lower back pain, hip pain, because it's all interconnected, obviously, the way the pelvic floor attaches to our bones. Pain during intercourse, even pain during urination or bowel movements. And other symptoms are incontinence during sneezing, running, coughing, laughing. Not only urine incontinence, but also fecal incontinence. That's also a big issue. Hemorrhoids. I have a whole chapter on hemorrhoids too. Yeah, things that are often embarrassed to talk about, I'm addressing. Yeah, and again, leaking during coughing and sneezing is common but not normal. And I hate
I
everybody,
feel
not
like
hate.
that's a big thing where women see it as like, oh, you've had a baby when you pee on the trampoline, or things like that. And it's just like seen as this badge of honor that you have to live
Yeah.
with, when really it's not true.
And it makes me so angry when even like older women tell other women, welcome to motherhood. That's just how it is. And I always say that's neither right nor empowering. And I want to change that conversation. And yeah, especially as women, we should support each other and not just tear each other down that way. I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are diastasis recti also I'm addressing. Yeah, so everything that goes along those lines. Painful intercourse I mentioned. Pain inserting tampons. Yeah, and then pelvic pain, shooting pains, lower back pain, all these things. All interconnected.
Also, would you agree? I've heard of like that if you constantly feel like you're wearing a tampon when you're not, like that feeling of like that heaviness or that fullness in your
Mm-hmm.
vagina, that can be a
For
sign.
sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And also urgency incontinence. I mean, there's different types of incontinence. Stress incontinence, that's pretty much based on vertical pressure, but also the urgency that you think like you constantly need to go. And that's not only actual exercises for your pelvic floor, but also mental. It's a mental training to teach your bladder that you don't have to go, you just went. So that's an emotional aspect of that too. So all these things.
So you had your experiences in your life, in your pregnancy, in your birth, postpartum. If you could do it over again, do you feel like there are things that you could do that you could have avoided? Either how the labor unfolded, maybe like it taking, a very long time, or the incontinence postpartum? Or do you feel like sometimes these things just unfold regardless, but that you can do the repair and the healing? Is there any prevention? Like if you start the work early enough in pregnancy, or even before, that you could prevent any of these things from happening?
See, that's the thing because I was like the role model of like prepping for that. Literally, I did everything. I took the vitamins. I went swimming every day. I went stretching. I did literally everything. And everybody told me, oh, this is going to be such a walk in the park for you. So I want to tell everybody, even though you can prep for everything and do everything right, sometimes it just unfolds differently, and that's okay too. Like it's my coach always said, don't worry about what happens before the race, worry about what happens after the race, right? Like you can prepare or process how you did after the finish line, or how you placed or whatever, and we work on that. Don't worry about what happens before. It's often out of your control. And that's the same way. And so even though I did everything right and I felt defeated, it's fixable. It's fixable. And the numbers don't lie. I mean, 80% of pelvic floor dysfunction is fixable via pelvic floor exercises, which is incredible. And when I have women in my DMs saying, "What's pelvic floor exercise? My doctor said I need to get surgery." I'm like, "What? He never even, or she never even informed you about alternatives?" And just knowing that is, it's really empowering that there's definitely things that you could do without having to go through, like, not, it's quite a risky surgery too.
Yeah. Is there a certain time postpartum that you recommend women start? Is there like a time where it's like, this is too soon, you should wait till at least, this number of weeks to see, your natural healing before you begin? Or is it something where you're like, no, 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 right away you can start?
You can start right away with some pelvic tilts, diaphragmatic breathing. So the diaphragm is directly connected to the pelvic floor. Even when you're bedridden, you can do that. As far as running or any exercise goes, simple exercises. As soon as you cleared at 6 weeks, you can start these. Running, I did start too early. They recommend 6, 8. I would recommend 12, because you could do a lot of damage if you start too early. Although, especially when you were an athlete, it's like you cannot wait to go back, but it will pay off in the long run. Like, no pun intended, but it will pay off
Yeah. Yeah.
if you wait a little longer.
There's this saying about like the lion period in the 40 days of rest, that 40 days of rest for 40 years of health, that like really
Yeah.
ties your healing
I like that.
initially.
So
So
true.
that long term,
For sure. I like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for creating this program. Will you tell the listeners like, a link to it or where they can find it if they're interested?
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me under thefitpelvicfloor.com. Same handle also for Instagram, the Fit Pelvic Floor. I'm very active on Threads too, which is connected to Instagram. These are my main sources to reach out.
Beautiful. Is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners that maybe we haven't covered, that maybe you wish somebody had said to you? I think it is beautiful to say like you can prepare as much as you can, and it's great to do that and like try to like not be too attached to the outcome or
Not
like
too
too
attached.
personally attached that like you were the failure, or that it was
No,
your control because
yeah,
it's so
for sure.
unpredictable. Yeah.
Yeah, and don't let anybody tell you you will be yourself forever, because that's not true. Like, send them to me. I talk to them. One thing, I mean, not only vaginal birth, also women that had a C-section, they can definitely benefit from pelvic floor therapy, because there's other implications that happen when you have a C-section. So that's something I want to share too. It's not just the vaginal birth ladies. Yeah, and if there's, I mean, sometimes women come to me and tell me little, like, in my eyes, very soft story, and then she will say, "Oh, that's probably like TMI." I'm like, "No, that's not TMI. I've
Yeah.
heard like
There's no such thing.
no such thing, way crazier things." So
Yeah.
feel free to just DM me if you don't want to say it like in public on the platforms. I've heard it all.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning cesarean because a lot of women uh think that maybe because they didn't push a baby out through their vagina that the pelvic floor is, because there's a lot of times where women will potentially, not a lot of times, but women, I've heard stories where they will choose a cesarean to like not quote unquote damage their vagina or have any
Mm-hmm.
issue, but like that there still can be,
Mm-hmm.
even just from the
Mm-hmm.
weight of the pregnancy, the
Yeah,
pressure
for
of
sure.
that on your pelvic floor.
For sure. Yeah, and also is the scarring restriction. It's like thinking about a spider web. If one of the spider web strings is thicker, it will lose the whole elasticity of the actual web. So you have to work on that. And then there's nerves that could be damaged that, you know, directly connected to your bladder function. And then a small percentage of, oh, you know, that small percentage of women actually do push a lot before then they hear, okay, C-section. So that was a lot of trauma too.
Right.
That all needs to be addressed, right? Like there's trauma to the pelvic floor after that.
Yes, so true.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, no worries. That was awesome. I
and
appreciate
sharing.
it.
Yeah, it's so important, this topic. And especially like if anyone takes away just one thing, it's the, you know, just because something is common doesn't mean it's normal.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want, I could email you a discount code for your listeners for my course, if that would help.
Yeah, they would love that.
Yeah, I could definitely do that.
Great. Well, thank you again so much.
No, no worries. I appreciate it. That was great.
Thanks everybody for listening. You can find us at Born Wild Podcast on Instagram. For inquiries or feedback, you can email us at bornwildpodcast@gmail.com. You can find me, Emma Ray, on Instagram at Emma Ray, REA.
Sophia at sophiabirth.com.
And me, Leah, at Bay Area Home Birth.
We would really appreciate it if you would rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps us reach more people. And as always,
Stay wild.